Hey everyone, thank you for being here today. As we go, feel free to type any questions you have into the chat, and if we have time at the end, we'll open the microphones for Q&A, but we'll try to get all the questions in the chat as we go. Before I go on any further, I do want to let you guys know that we are recording today, so we are not going to keep the cameras on just so that we don't mess with the bandwidth. And I would like to introduce all of you to the TCC District Work Team that has been working on civic engagement for the last 9 months. So the original godmother of all this is Joan Johnson. She is our all-in representative, and she's the department chair for government and paralegal studies at Northeast. We also have Dr. Kristen Faust, who is an associate professor of history at the Southeast campus. Angela Morse, who serves as a public service librarian for the South Campus. Eddie Bassert, who is the Trinity River Assistant Director of Student Services. Dr. Murray Fortner, the Department Chair of Sociology, Psychology, and Mental Health, and who is also the co-chair of this team. We also have Lourdes Davenport, who's the coordinator for special projects at Northwest, but Lourdes didn't have time to send me a picture in. And then I'm Misty Wilson-Mertens. I'm the chair of social sciences at Connect, and I co-chaired this team with Dr. Fortner. Before we move on, I do want to say that Eddie and Lou are in other meetings today, but they wanted to be here. They've been a really vital part of this team, and I just want to make sure that we acknowledge them as we go because they've been a really, really critical part of this group. For a long time in academia, civic engagement was seen as something for student services to worry about, or maybe something that a history professor or government professor or sociology professor might do in their course. But we're past the point now where this is optional. For us as a college, for us to meet the standards of the state of Texas, and really for the state of our democracy, it's no longer optional that we think about bringing civic engagement into our classrooms. We now have to bring civic engagement into the classroom. And we also want civic engagement to be part of the culture of Tarrant County College. And now I'm going to hand this over to Dr. Fortner.
Each one of these pretty much could be preceded by the word only. And it is not only the state of our democracy, it is truly the state of the union. Only 58% of eligible voters cast a ballot during presidential election years. 22% have attended a political meeting or local, town, or school affairs. 22% have recently signed a paper petition, 17% online. 13% have active membership in a group trying to influence the public. 10% have attended a political rally or speech. Only 7% have worked or volunteered for a political party or candidate. Only 25% of Americans could name all 3 branches of the U.S. government. 30% of Americans could not name any of the branches of the government. 60% of college graduates believe Jefferson wrote the Constitution. Which means there is no doubt civic engagement is paramount. It should be a salient feature of what we do in the classroom. Here's a definition. Civic engagement means working to make a difference in the civic life of our communities and developing the combination of knowledge, skills, values, and motivation to make that difference. It means promoting the quality of life in a community through both political and non-political processes. Thomas Erlach, Civic Responsibility and Higher Education.
Hi, it's Joan Johnson. I'm just going to talk briefly about where we've been and where we've been going and culminating in where we are. So long ago, I've been here a minute. My gray hair and my knees tell me that all the time. But when I first started working on civic engagement, and all the campuses were doing wonderful things, the problem was we were all in our own little spheres doing these things, and it seemed primarily in the hands of government departments to handle this. And then I became aware of the All In Challenge, which is a wonderful organization that gathers data and helps support efforts. And we had to join as a district because that's how we're accredited. And so we got together and formed an All In Challenge committee as outlined by their charter with the support of all the presidents. And that really helped start us on a path of looking at this as a district rather than campus by campus, which was really cool. And what also was really cool about their guidelines for forming this committee was that you had to be certain and sure that you had a student on there, that you had people in student services, that you had faculty from across a variety of disciplines. So it was always my dream to make this more holistic approach, because government impacts every discipline, everything we do in our lives, basically. It's really hard to come up. I always challenge my students, can you come up with a way that government does not impact your life? And they really struggle with that one. So that then evolved. We've been with Campus Compact for a while, and Dr. Coppola has paid those dues, and we've been a member of that for some time. It's another wonderful resource for civic engagement, social responsibility in the community college setting. Just recently, we joined the Ask Every Student initiative. And the really cool thing about this is, again, it's district-wide, and it's focusing on bringing all disciplines and everything we're doing into this idea of, making civic engagement more of our culture, like Misty mentioned. So one of the things that we're looking at with that is including a voter reg stop and new student orientation. Even though we're online right now, it's included in an email where they can get that information. And also STSC, just maybe a slide or two in that course. But again, also reaching out to faculty from all disciplines to really get involved. So that's where we've been, and now we're a group, and it's really wonderful that we're doing this district-wide. That was something else that was important when we formed the work team, to have a variety of people from a variety of disciplines and different areas on the campus in which they work. So the district work team came out of one of the principals. Dr. Coppola formed it and had assigned Murray, Dr. Fortner, and Misty Wilson as the chairs, and then people from each campus then joined. And so our whole focus is to support civic engagement and social responsibility. And I would also add, one of the SLOs I think this touches on is also personal responsibility in students and classes to fulfill those requirements as outlined by the THECB. We also want to facilitate opportunities for students to engage with these ideas in and outside of class. I know that we all want to be helping students take what they learn and use it in the real world. I mean, that's our whole goal. So we want them to go out and use these things that we're teaching them. And tied to that, then, if we're trying to get students to get more involved across, in their daily lives and in all their classes they're taking, the other component is educating faculty and staff how to bring this into the classroom without taking over your classroom, without even, it could be an announcement or something. But we just really want civic engagement to be part of our culture. Democracy really is and has been threatened. And so we're past the point of this occurring. So it's very exciting, and it's a wonderful group of people to work with.
Hey, this is Dr. Kristen Faust. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about what we've already accomplished, and I'm going to try to condense it as fast as I can. So what we've already accomplished just in the few months that we started the district work team. First, what you see the image of here is a Civies Award image. We were actually nominated for a national award called the Civies, and we are in the finalists currently. The award recognizes a focus on equity, diversity, and inclusion. So we were nominated for the local category, and this organization actually had the record high number of nominations in the year 2020. So it's quite an honor for our college. So let's just tell you some of the things that we did to get that honor. Of course, we haven't won the award yet, cross your fingers. So we have a list over 100 lines long of the things that we've actually tackled and worked on this last semester. And so in the span of that time, we created the district work team. We've created individual campus committees. Many of you I see are on those committees. We've built faculty resources and hosted training workshops, conducted presentations, including series like the anti-discrimination series, the protest series, Learn to Discern series, a few other individual events, some of the big ones including DACA training, as well as digital literacy and fake news. We've encouraged voter registration education and voter turnout by 1,000 emails you probably got from us, hashtag campaign, training videos, student employees working on this effort, handing out many hundreds, over 1,000 voter registration cards. Some campuses were able to have drive-through deputies collecting those voter registration cards as well. And we've built and advertised the LibGuide and virtual tutorials, hosted Constitution Days events, and created a Flipgrid, a website, among many other things. So several things you've probably seen from us.
Hi, this is Angela Morse. As a librarian, I am, of course, here to talk to you about libraries and civic engagement. Libraries themselves have a long history of civic engagement. They have acted as sites for voting, space for free speech and events. Of course, with the way things are right now, libraries as places have been very constrained. So we did have to do, instead of in-person voter registration, we handed out voter registration cards. I think almost all or all the campus libraries, when they were doing device distributions, they were putting them in the bags with the devices. Libraries contain materials that represent facts on both sides of the issue. We're supposed to be nonpartisan, not take a side. And then our whole professional ideal of freedom of information. We believe information should be out there for everyone to access. If you'd like to see more information on that, you can go to the American Library Association website link that talks about intellectual freedom and the advocacy they do nationally for that. Librarians are at the forefront of battling misinformation and disinformation and fake news. We are available to come to your classes and do presentations on that, make LibGuides for your classes, maybe help you create a research assignment on that topic. Some librarians also act as archivists. Here at TCC, the Northeast campus contains the archives for TCC. So if you're ever interested in maybe doing a project on the history of TCC in the community, the Northeast Library is a great resource for that. And the Fort Worth Public Library also keeps archives on the history of the local area. So that might be a good place to go if you would like to do some sort of history of civic engagement and have them look at that in the history of the area. Go to Fort Worth Public. And then we also have a number of LibGuides that pertain to civic engagement. Terry Rogers at Northwest did a great one for voting this year. And then we have a virtual display team has been putting together things like Earth Day and Constitution Day, Women's History Month, things like those that might be worth checking out for your students and your classes. And then one idea that you could incorporate into your classes, especially maybe English or even government, is banned books and the history of banned books in this country. It's still happening. There are still people wanting their libraries to get Harry Potter out because it's promoting witchcraft and all other kinds of crazy things. So maybe look at the history of free speech and banned books.
Hi, it's Joan again. I want to give a major shout out to librarians and their professional ideal of freedom of information. I've got an MLS as well, and when I was working on that degree, that's when the Patriot Act came out. And one of the things that it was doing was seizing people's lending records at the library. And I tell you what, librarians were at the forefront of the fight on that infringement of, reading what you want to read and information. It was really amazing how that group really fought that. So I just want to give a shout out.
Yeah, it's a major reason a lot of libraries, if you want to go and ask them, I'd like a history of what I've read. I want to know what I've already read because I can't remember. And they will probably tell you we don't have that information because they don't want to keep that information to be subpoenaed because it can now be used against you in court. Whereas before 9/11, it was off limits.
Hi, so this is Kristen Faust again. I wanted to expand on a little bit of what Joan talked about with the Texas Higher Education Board and some of our required student learning outcomes. So the Texas core curriculum has 6 criteria. So whatever course you're teaching, you're probably going to have at least 2 of the criteria in there. So social responsibility is one that many courses are required to teach and assess. And if you're part of the assessment team, you're probably familiar with that. But it specifically in the definition includes civic responsibility and the ability to engage effectively in regional, national, and global communities. So as Misty mentioned at the beginning, it's no longer optional. We are required to bring this into the classroom. So that Texas board also has, like I said, there are 6 criteria overall. So critical thinking, communication, empirical and quantitative skills, teamwork, personal responsibility, and social responsibility. And like Joan mentioned, civic engagement directly ties into social responsibility by definition, but it's also part of personal responsibility. And I would argue, if you wanted to, you can incorporate it even if those 2 SLOs are not part of your core curriculum. They're not included on your ICR as TCC has created it. It is still something that you can incorporate. Critical thinking, communication, empirical, quantitative data, and teamwork. You can incorporate civic engagement in all of those. And we're going to give you tons of examples on how you can do that, even if the social responsibility is not part of one of your SLOs for your courses.
If you don't know which SLOs are part of your course, Dr. Faust thought ahead, and she has the chart that they made. So it shows you exactly what's required for your course. If you don't mind, Dr. Faust, could you put that in the chat so people could download it if they need it? I'm sure most of you probably know it.
Yes, I will do that.
Thank you. So we know that we're now required to. So for some of you, that's the stick, but other people need a carrot. So I want to tell you the benefits of doing this. The first one is that we want our students to be able to leave our classrooms and for this information to leave with them, for them to go use this information in the real world. So when you're putting in civic engagement to your course, you're not just doing it to check a box. You're doing it because it's going to allow your students to see how your course material really is functioning in the real world. They're going to have a deeper understanding of what you're trying to teach them. We also want students to see connections across the disciplines. I teach history. History doesn't just happen in a vacuum. History touches government, economics, science, all of it. So we want students to start seeing that. We want them to make these connections that our subject matter isn't static. These are really fluid things that cross borders. We also want to start thinking about our courses in a way that makes our courses student-centric and allows us to meet those requirements. If we can show that we're meeting those requirements, that is going to just make everything a lot smoother as we move forward. And then this one matters a lot to me. We're going to have faculty that have inclusive and culturally competent teaching practices. Those are absolutely necessary in the world we live in now, and your students are going to be very grateful if you can bring those values into your course room. This graphic that's over to the side, Lou made this for our team, and I think it's very, very handy if you're just getting started. Looking at the names and some of the participants here, some of you guys are experts. I know that you know this. But for those that are just starting out, this is a really, really helpful reminder. We do have a Blackboard org for civic engagement. It has a lot of great resources in there. It has sample announcements you can put in your class that are pre-written for you. It has links you can give your students where they can go register to vote, sample assignments. So if you want to be a part of that, let me know and I can help you get in. Once we're back on campus, you might want to consider becoming a deputy voter registrar. That would allow you to take student voter registration cards if they're in your county. 2 people on my campus did this last year. I know a few people at Southeast. I know a few people at Northeast have done it. It's a one-day thing, and then you're ready to go. You cannot fill out the form for students, so please don't do that. You cannot offer extra credit for your students to vote. We don't want to influence our students' vote one way or the other, and we don't want them to think that they're getting rewarded for voting in that way. And we also don't want to endorse a specific candidate or party. We want to be very careful about what we're doing. We're not telling students how to vote or how to think about these issues. We're just trying to open the door so that they can think about these issues and think very critically about these issues.
Hey, Misty, can I add something?
Of course.
Thank you, ma'am. When it comes to being a deputy voter registrar, the beauty is this. Studies show that if you give them the mail-in application, odds are they'll fill it out while they're sitting at that table, but that they won't follow through and mail it in. If you're a deputy voter registrar, then you get to take it in for them, and then they get mailed the card, and the rates of them participating go up dramatically. And the other thing is, you can't have them, not only do you not want to fill out that application for them, if you can't mail it in for them either. Texas is very strict on all of this stuff. And so that will also get you in trouble, which is why we're also working on getting more post offices on mailboxes on campus. So when we have a voter reg drive, they can literally fill it out and stick it in the mail right there.
So now that we've talked to you all about civic engagement, we want to give you guys some examples, and we actually have a whole printout that we're going to give you at the end of how to do this, ideas about doing this. And what you're seeing here is called the civic engagement wheel, or sometimes called social activism wheel. I've seen it both ways. But if what you're doing falls under one of these wedges, then you're probably doing it right. And there's some sub wedges depending on what resource you look at, but these are the big ones. So I'm just going to open the floor to the presenters, whoever wants to go first.
This is Angela. I think one thing you guys can do in your classes is have students attend or watch different kinds of board or governance meetings throughout the community to maybe learn what those boards do, and maybe they'll want to speak up and show some activism. Maybe they want to go to the board and protest the high cost of textbooks. Maybe they want to learn what the regional body governing the animal control center does, because they don't like that the pets are being euthanized. So there's all different things they can do and attend and maybe speak up at.
I think another great way, if you don't, we're not trying to, in any way to infringe on your disciplines and how you teach. If you want to just tip your, put your toe in the water, I think just promoting election days and when they're upcoming and voter registration deadlines, just an announcement. You don't have to take class time for it. While civic engagement goes far beyond just voting, it sure is a great step in the process. And, even talk about the fact that you vote, just leading by example, that kind of a thing. I think that's wonderful too. That's just a simple way to start.
And this is Murray Fortner. I think it is also important, Joan, we talk a lot about people promote the idea of service learning, and we promote the idea of being service teachers. So sometimes I think students will be motivated by what we do I also like to incorporate, whenever possible, service learning, which I see is on the wheel. Service learning is also an important thing. And the motto that I use in my class is that we must learn to serve, and then we must serve to learn. So it seems to work. The thing, if you give students something to do, they seem to find great joy in doing it. But they won't unless we put that on the agenda. And what Misty talked about earlier, about we have to be very, very careful in terms of promoting particular political candidates. The thing we have to keep in mind is very simple. What we're trying to do in the classroom and what we're trying to do for you, whether you want to incorporate this or not, we're not trying to tell you what to think. We're trying to tell you what to think about.
So this is Kristen again, and I'll chime in and give just one of the things that I do in my class. So I teach history as well as Misty, but I teach, when I'm teaching that second part of U.S. history, that goes up to present day. So I have my students research a current socio-political issue, so it can be a social or political issue, tie it to the past, when that started occurring and how it's still relevant today. And then I make them actually do something about it. This is a huge part of their grade. They actually have to become agents of change and stop whatever social or political problem they found and address it, whether that means writing their congressman or whether that means volunteering at a place. And so I've had students do a wide variety of things, including and really they're writing, I almost make everyone write their political leaders about whatever the issue is. So even some have done for or against abortion, for or against gun control. I don't care what side they take, just become part of what you want to see in your future, right? Become involved, become active. And so that's one of the things that I do in my course.
And when I teach Western Civ, I do something very similar. I have my students do a white paper. And so as we're learning the history of the Western world, they are researching a current problem or issue, and they're following the historical foundations of that issue. And then I tell them by the end of the course, they have to solve world hunger, or they have to give everybody clean water. They have to end genocide. And so that really makes them an activist within my course. And then my hope, of course, is that they take that and they leave my course and they pursue that. And I've had a few students that have done that. They've gone on to graduate school and they're actually working to become these, like Kristen said, agents of change in the world. And there is no higher honor we can have as teachers than that. And I think I cut you off, Joan. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's okay. I think another good thing is encouraging them to actually run for office. And I know you're like, oh, that sounds crazy, but in Texas and local government, which is where we're truly affected by government, and yet we tend to largely ignore it, unfortunately, local election turnout can be like 1%. And so I tell them, hey, man, get your family and friends out, and you're going to be in the city council. And in fact, Lourdes Davenport, her daughter, who was a TCC student, was the youngest and first Latina to ever serve on the Haltom City Council. So, and we had another student as well that's serving on a governmental entity. So, you know, when you think about what Stan was talking about is great because, you know, if you're in a science class, you could be talking about climate change. And so many people don't even know who represent them. They may not even know our U.S. senators, or they certainly don't know the member of the House. And then when we get to the state level, they really don't know. And so there's a lot of easy resources for people to find out who represents them, and they can, you know, advocate in a variety of disciplines that impact all you guys to their representatives. I love that idea too. I do that in my classroom too, Stan.
So we could come back to this at the end if we have more time to talk about ideas or questions, but I want to make sure we get the rest of this completed. That's a better way to say that.
All right, so this is Angela again. I want to talk about the future plans for the district group. We want to do a virtual voter drive. Obviously, we're still virtual, and a lot of our campuses will not let us have drive-through voter drives or anything on campus, so we want to coordinate something virtual. We are in the process of finalizing our voter-friendly campus designations. We're doing our end-of-year reports, and we should hear back in March which, if any, and hopefully all of us receive that designation. We are going to be doing a speaker series where we invite speakers of all different types, doing different things within their community, some local, some hopefully national, to talk about what they do, why they got involved, how our students, faculty, and staff can get involved in things they're passionate about. We are going to be hosting a TCC conference / workshop on civic engagement. Time still to be determined, but will be in the future. We're looking at maybe summer or fall. And then we also want to form a district-wide student group. At first, we thought maybe we should do separate, smaller groups at the campuses, but after thinking about it and talking about it, we decided a larger student group would be more effective, especially if they decided there were issues they wanted to take up and speak up about. Having that larger voice would be more impactful. And then Murray, I think this is you.
Okay, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I was saying that. Sorry about that. I muted my mic. I love the 1960s because for me it was being a student of history, more or less, because the 1960s seemed to represent an era when there was so much civic engagement. So I had a lot of professors who were a part of that. And I want to just say that what we're doing is more or less the consequence of the foresight of Dr. Coppola. He had the foresight. What we're trying to do is bring the insight. And to me, insight and foresight kind of makes you less dependent on hindsight. So we're just asking everybody to go ahead and act. For me, if I don't incorporate civic engagement in what I'm doing in 2021, I almost consider it malpractice. Because it is important that we act so that we don't have to spend so much time reacting. So I like this quote. It's a call to action. Of course, John Kennedy. And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. My fellow citizens of the world, ask not what America will do for you, but what together we can do for the freedom of man.
Thank you so much, Murray. I love how you said it feels like a malpractice. I feel the same way. So next steps for you guys, everybody who's here participating. The first thing that you can do if you want to get involved on the campus or district level, contact your campus representative. So we're listed there. Another thing that you can do, we have all those resources that we built in the Blackboard organization, the Civic Engagement org, so you can request to join that. Share your ideas when you come across something. I'm always Googling to see how to incorporate civic engagement in the classroom. I mean, I'm constantly Googling this and getting new ideas all the time. So if you come across or think of an idea, let's share it. And then make sure you're checking out the LibGuide. And we do have a handout with more ideas. Misty, if you have the pretty version of that, I don't know if you posted it in the chat, but we do have the LibGuides that we presented, as well as a handout with more ideas and some STEM ideas as well. I know many of us presenting are non-STEM faculty and staff, but we have ideas for you as well. So please get involved, contact us. We are happy to let you do everything with us.
Okay, so I just opened your microphones. You can now unmute if you'd like to ask a question. And while you guys do that, I am going to look for that thing that Stan was talking about, and I will post it in the chat.
Good afternoon. This is Josue Munoz at the Southeast Campus. My question is, how is this group, the Civic Engagement Group, getting this information out to all government, history faculty, or any faculty? And how are we going about to recruit more faculty to get involved with this initiative?
This is Joan. How are you, Dean Munoz? We created a common PowerPoint that was presented during the first week back activities regarding how to get registered for the upcoming election and kind of do's and don'ts for that. We utilize on our own separate campuses, emails to all faculty and staff. I think that the way more faculty and staff can get involved is by joining the campus civic engagement teams. We've got staff on our civic engagement team, as well as faculty and people from the library on our team at Northeast. So those are some of the ways that we can get this word out. And plus that organization that we created in Blackboard, if we could get more people as a member in that would really help the effort to get the word out. We also were in talks with Marlon Moat about assessment and bringing that more to the forefront, because it is one of those SLOs. And we had a really engaging, exciting conversation with him. One of the surveys that students fill out, I don't remember all the acronyms, Sensi, Sessi, something. A lot of community colleges and universities are adding civic engagement questions on those surveys. That's another thing that we're looking into.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is Josue again. I just had another question. What have you heard, or are there any plans for virtual conferences this semester, or anything coming up in the next academic year for like the CC4D or anything like that?
It's CLDE, Civic Learning and Democratic Engagement. I always mess that acronym up. I hope I'm doing it correctly. Their conference is going to be in June this year, and it is virtual. And I believe Campus Compact is having one as well. Our district team is going to be hosting a local Tarrant County conference as well, TCCD conference as well. We haven't decided on the date, either summer or fall, for that. So we do have those several things immediately that we know of. Joan, Misty, have you guys heard of any others?
We still have our protests in American history coming up in February. We're going to be talking about Black Lives Matter movement and things like that, which is open up to the entire district. We're also working in our department to coming up with some more presentations. And I guess one of the issues we have, communication's always hard, right? Because we're 5 different campuses and mailing lists and all that. So
Six campuses.
Sorry, Misty, I do that all the time. I'm so sorry. Just shoot me now. So it would be nice if we could come up with a better way. If y'all have any ideas, if we could come up with a better way to communicate across the district regarding all of this information and all this stuff that's going on, because each campus has some amazing stuff going on. It's just trying to get the word out to all 6 campuses, Misty. I'm so sorry.
And thank you. It looks like Dr. Capola just posted the link for the CC4D conference.
Hi, it's me. This is Bill. That's for the website. We had a board meeting a few weeks ago, and we're working out the logistics of trying to have another virtual. Of course, we want to have a face-to-face, but we're finding out with the virtual conferences, we can bring a whole lot more people than we can to flying someplace, even though it's always nice to get together. So I'll pass that information as soon as we get.
If you guys don't have any other questions, then I guess we'll go ahead and dismiss. If you think of one later, please feel free to email any of us that are on this list. Reach out to us. We're happy to talk to you about this. All of us are really passionate about this. You will not bother us. We're just looking for an outlet to talk about this.
Through CDI or remote, or I don't know how long we will be in our current state. Just need to make sure we only put students in sections that.
Thanks everyone for attending.
Thank you.